Hey, everybody. It's Jason Hall and Jennifer Hall, my wife here, married 18 years by the grace of God. Rich Marriage Podcast. We're excited to be here. It's going to be good. We're going to talk about, what are we talking about today?
Stewardship.
Stewardship. There we go. There we go.
Yes.
Man, it's a broad topic because, at first I presented it to you. Well, you presented it to me talking about money, which we will talk about, but there's much more to that, stewarding different parts of life. And you came up with something really good, rest, resources, and what was the other one? I forgot, man. Rest, resources. Let me check my phone. I ain't afraid to mess up, y'all.
We're going to edit this out.
And relationships. Boom. I ain't even have to look.
Rest,
resources and relationships. I think that was powerful, man, because you came up with that, So when I think about stewardship, what is stewardship?
What is stewardship? Wow. When I think about stewardship, I think about how we handle, how we use what has been given to us, right? And so that's how it's so relatable to all those different areas of our lives because we are given relationships. Our rest is our right. And we're given energy and resources and different things other than finances that God has called us to steward well. And so, yes, what has been given to us in our hands, how we use it.
That's so good. I think about when you say that, when you said like energy, and I think about the way that with money, with resources, right? I always used to work a lot of jobs that required a lot of hours, including overtime. And I used to love that overtime because what does that mean? More money, right? I love that overtime. So I worked a lot of security early on in our marriage. And, they always had extra hours. For me, extra hours means more money. It translates, right? To overtime, time and a half. But I would be depleted. I would be exhausted, y'all, to the point where I would just come home and go to sleep because I had worked 50, 60, 70 hours that week, trying to chase the dollar, trying to get as much money as I could. I was trying to steward well. I had good intentions with the money, but I wasn't stewarding my time. I wasn't stewarding my rest, as you said, and I wasn't stewarding my relationship, my most important relationship on earth, which is my wife. So I wasn't investing the time in the relationship. So although I was investing in time in the job to get more money, to be responsible to take care of the family and to help support, I wasn't using and stewarding my time well, my rest well. I was burning myself out. I was losing my identity, my purpose, and I was just exhausted, downright exhausted. And I was frustrated, led to stress, anxiety, so many other things. So we live in a world where it requires finances, it requires relationships, it requires rest. I mean, how do we do that? Because, if you can answer this question, you know it all. But what are some things, because as far as you, Jennifer, when you think about stewardship in your life, what do you think about what have you done right? What have you done wrong? What are some things for you?
Yeah. I think the first thing that comes to mind, and which has been the hugest struggle for me, the biggest struggle for me is in regards to rest. And you and I know firsthand, we burnt out early in our marriage. A lot of that had to do with just ministry and our pace of life. And so, in the area of rest. And I think when it really hit home for me is when it began to impact my physical health. I realized the toll that not resting and not stewarding rest well, stewarding my energy well, the toll that it had taken on my health physically. And it was really a moment of, I had to really, really take a good look of how I was living my life, the pace at which I was going, how much I was doing, and really relying on my own strength a lot instead of God's strength. And it had taken a huge toll on my health physically. And I had to really just take a look at that and really make some changes in my life. And so that's been the biggest area of struggle for me, is in the area of rest.
That's so good. You know, I think about that. You know, I definitely have seen you go through some things with the area of rest because life pulls on us so much, you know, it requires a lot. And prioritizing and stewarding that rest is not only important for you, but it's important for your relationships, right?
Yeah.
And it affects your household, it affects your spouse, it affects your children.
Yep.
But ultimately, I mean, if you're going at such a heavy pace, and I was in that, you know, I was right there with her, just trying to serve everybody else, trying to do everything else, trying to save the world for God, you know, do everything I can to make money, serve God. I was all stewarding. My stewardship was not well. My food habits, you know, eating, I still struggle with that at times. But man, it was out of balance. Yeah. You know what I mean? That stewardship is out of balance. And when that gets out of balance, then everything else is affected. The relationships, the resources, all those different things. So like, it's interesting. Here's the interesting thing through all of that, as we talked about in previous episodes about money, the interesting thing is I work more restful and less hours now, but I actually make a lot more money. And that's counterintuitive to my thinking. And most of society's thinking, grind, 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 do more, be more, wake up at 5 a.m., work out, do this. You know, I actually, and I do, I go to the gym, I work out, I have a balanced life for the most part. But I'm like, actually, I'm more productive, I'm more conscious, I'm more healthy, I'm more mentally healthy than I ever been in my life because I chose to rest, to operate from a restful state. So I'm still working, you know what I mean? Like I still have a job, I still have a business, I still have a podcast, I still have a wife, I still have kids. I'm doing things from a restful state, but it's different. So instead of trying to grind my way to the top, I'm conforming my way to who I am, and out of the flow of who I am, that's comes the resources, the relationships, and the rest is all more fruitful.
Yeah.
I get to spend more time with my kids. I get to spend more time with my wife, and my resources are more, and what I do is more effective in my life and the lives of others, and I can be more present because now I'm prioritizing me. I'm prioritizing my relationships that come from my rest. And guess what? I'm more resourceful for others. And so I'm learning. It's a process, y'all. I'm still learning, you know, haven't arrived by any means. But my marriage has become more rich and fruitful and full. Why? Because I'm operating from a place of rest and alignment and the design of who I originally was created to be. It's a lot different. It's a different mindset. I'm no longer chasing. I'm no longer grinding and striving, but I'm doing things in alignment with who I am and based on my identity and what I'm really, really good at. One time I was working a job a couple years ago, and the boss, you know, said to me, the CEO, he said, Jason, you're really, 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 really good at networking. You're great at networking. And it was an aha moment. I knew I was good at connecting with people, but when he said that, I said, oh, he sees something in me that I don't even see in myself. He's seen the value of what I can do to connect people. And then I started learning more in that. And then I was able to lock in positions, jobs, opportunities that opened up doors for me to use that gift to not only conform to who I am, but to help other people and ultimately to help my family as well, resourcefully. And I'm able to get paid to do that in a lot of different ways. So there's no limitations. When you're stewarding well, you know, scripture says that whatever you do with little, you're going to do with much. Yeah. Whatever you do with little, you can be blessed with much more. You know, that's why you see a lot of lottery winners lose all those millions of dollars because they don't know how to steward. They don't know how to, you know, a lot of you say, but I could just make more money. $2 more an hour, $5 more an hour. But a lot of times it'll hurt you because you might not know what to do with that money, right? Because if you don't know how to steward it, it's just going to dwindle away, right? And so what are your thoughts on different things
No, I
like
just
that?
can see how they all flow together, right? You all probably heard to work smarter, not harder, right? And there was a time within the last year and a half or so, we received this word that, you're going to be able to do more with less. At that time, we didn't really know exactly what that meant. But I think we both now know and believe that a huge part of that was surrounding the rest part. And when you're doing things from a place of rest, you're doing it out of the flow, as Jason said, of who you already are, right? We both have a certain pace, a certain rhythm at which we live by, and it's very different, which is pretty cool, right? We move and we serve, we live, we love, and build at a different pace than each other. But when we're doing it out of the flow of who God created us to be, it's something beautiful happens when you do it together, right? Because it complements each other so well, right? So I think even more so than having balance now, we have more of a harmony. There's a harmony in our lives when it comes to stewarding our resources, stewarding our rest, stewarding our relationships. And now we see this harmony, this more of a flow in the midst of our marriage. Throughout some of those seasons where you were an armed guard and working overnight shifts, 12-hour shifts and different things like that, the flow of our home looked very different. It looked very different during that time. So as you said it, when you were working overnight, you would have to come home and go to sleep after working 3 12-hour shifts overnight and rest. So your rhythm and flow of life was really, really different during that time. And it's even different now. And I think looking at and embracing the fact that stewardship is going to look different for you and your family, for your marriage in different seasons. Embracing that is key to staying in that flow and finding that harmony. And so, again, this has been a huge part of us having that rich marriage, that we actually one day sat down and realized we had the permission to dream about. What does it look like for us, And so in stewarding well, stewarding better, as you always say, like, this is a process, it's a journey, and it requires recalibration over different seasons. But if you do it, you can find yourself living in that rich marriage and that rich life. For us, having that financial freedom, time freedom, right? It wasn't just about money for us. It was also the time freedom, as you shared, and being able to do that things together, and for the kids as a family, being present. We're able to be more present than ever because we value our time differently than we ever have before. And so it's led us to being able to steward other things well, right? So that's how I would kind of close us out in that, is that stewardship is huge, and it's biblical. It's also biblical. We're called to be stewards, not just takers, not just spenders, not just doers. But God has called us to be out of the flow of who He's created each of us uniquely to be. And when we do that, then we find ourselves stewarding well.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. That's definitely a word of wisdom, a word of knowledge. For those that are watching, man, that's something that you can take into your life and the different aspects, as we talked about, in your relationships, stewarding relationships well, stewarding your marriage well, stewarding. We talked about the resources.
Yeah.
The resources, and I love that time thing, as you talked about. Prioritizing that. Is so important. So, and most importantly, rest, as you shared. Because guess what? If you're not resting at home, you're going to be resting in a hospital somewhere. And that job is going to be there. They're going to replace you. It's serious. Your health and your mental health is more important, than anything. So anyway, this has been the Rich Marriage Podcast, talking about stewardship. This was so good. Thank you so much. Like and share.
Turn on notifications.
Subscribe. We love to engage with you more. as we release new episodes, and share it with a friend. Share it with a friend. So God bless you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, we'll see you.